Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Cult Cinema 83, and this is episode 18 of the Cult Cinema podcast. And I'm once again joined by James from Poliziotteschi and Gialli Reviews. James, how are you? How have you been? It's been a while, but we're here. So
Yeah, no, I'm well. I mean, this is a little bit of a departure from what we normally talk about, as well as from my channel, as you can tell by the channel's name. We're going to a very different country.
right, yeah, no. I was going to get to that, but yeah, it's. I mean, it's been a while. I mean, summer hiatus and all of that. I mean, I usually don't record in the summer because at my workplace, the summer is always the most hectic and crazy time of the year. I mean, I've been working overtime like crazy. It's insane. But anyway, so I don't really have time to do anything like this. But it's done, and we're here once again. So it's good to have you back again, once again, on this one. And yes, it's going to be a little bit of a different one. Not the usual European Italian stuff that we are both fans of, but we're going to talk about a genre that I think we are also both very big fans of. At least I think so. And that is the Hong Kong action thriller. Is that the best way to describe it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair characterization.
Yeah. I think it is. Well, a lot of people say high octane action films. I would like to dub them as more like violent crime thrillers. Like that, I feel like that's a more appropriate like title. It's more like because I mean there is action in these films, but it's not like you're watching like an Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone like movie, right?
No, yeah, I mean, the Hong Kong action in general, I mean, had many different eras. And so, I mean, like, I think when you describe it as like kind of high octane, my mind would really go to someone like John Woo or Ringo Lam, one of those guys working in like the 80s or 90s. And the Johnny Toe stuff, yeah, I think you described it well as kind of like these dark, violent, maybe even noirish crime thrillers, but they have a different character to them than those films that came a bit before it. And they're a little less, I don't know, they're quite different, I would say.
Right. Yeah. No. Absolutely, they are very different. I would say they are very different from American action films in general. I feel like so. But I'm sure we're going to go into all of that. So before we dive into the movies, actually, can you share with us a little bit like what we should say? By the way, we're talking about Johnny Toe, which is one of the biggest genre directors, I feel like, in the Hong Kong era. But before we dive into the movies, actually, can you give us a little bit of a background on when did you first discover Johnny Toe, and what were some of the movies that introduced you to his work?
Yeah. So I started watching Johnny Toe films in around 2009, 2010, and that's really when I started to get into Hong Kong cinema. And I feel like he is kind of like one of the big significant voices you're going to hear about post the Hong Kong handover in '97. So definitely like the big significant director there. So that's when I started watching them. That's when I actually saw both of these films for the first time, is 2009, 2010. I don't know when exactly. And so it's been interesting. I feel like the last few years, there's been a lot more kind of activity of people rewatching the film. So I've watched both of them a couple times in the last couple of years too. But yeah, that's kind of my history with Johnny Toe.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely. I think you would dub these movies like the new crime wave era. I feel like because, like you said, after 1997, which of course was a very troublesome time for Asia and Hong Kong in particular. But that's interesting. And it's funny because I only recently really started to discover Johnny Toe. I believe I'd seen when I was in the 2000s. I believe I saw Drug War, which is from 2012, I believe.
Yeah, I really like that film too. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of his like more brutal and violent films. That really goes places, I remember. But
Yeah,
but no,
yeah.
but I really, yeah, but I really enjoyed that. That was really good and very different. And I've only recently started to discover Johnny Toe, really in like I think it is like the last 5 years or something.
Okay.
So I came to this genre relatively late, but I'm actually falling quite in love with it. They are really good movies. I feel like very strong in not just action but storytelling as well. Um, I was familiar with the '80s, like you said, the '80s stuff, of course, but yeah, I mean, I'm really starting to have like a passion for these Hong Kong action thrillers, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm very recent to it actually. So it's like, yeah, I mean, like apart from Drug War, I had not seen like a lot of it. But and actually the two films that we're talking about were the first two that I discovered. So, you know,
Okay.
Johnny Toe. So that should be interesting to talk about. So yeah, it's good stuff. So all right. So yeah, again, Johnny Toe. Let's just announce the movies then. We are going to talk about Breaking News, which is from 2004, I believe, and then Exiled, which is from 2006. So which movie would you like to start with?
Let's do breaking news. We'll just go chronological.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So breaking news. The funny thing, by the way, the funny thing is usually I read a synopsis or whatever. I couldn't really find any synopsis that would like not spoiler the whole movie. So I was like, and it's always those synopsis always kind of spoil it, but I couldn't find like any like vague synopsis or whatever. So I don't have anyone ready. But so let's just dive into the movie anyway. It takes place in Hong Kong, of course, and it's basically about a sort of conflict between the police and this gang while fighting a sort of cyber terrorism like conflict. Is that the right way to describe it?
I think that's right. Yeah, they kind of engage in the actual like cops trying to catch the criminals, and then they also engage in this kind of like internet modern news warfare.
Exactly. Yes, and it's and the internet didn't exist for very long at that time in 2004, so it was relatively new. All of that, which is kind of, and I find it kind of interesting that Johnny Toe decided to use that as sort of a springboard for this movie. But we'll get into all of that. So yeah, it's basically a conflict between two sides, basically, and using sort of the internet or social media or however you want to call it as a springboard, basically, to justify their actions, kind of. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is about. So let's just dive into it before we go into like positives, negatives, and stuff. What are some of your general thoughts about Breaking News?
Well, I think it's really interesting because, as you point out, it's like 2004, so the internet exists for sure, but it's not what it is now. And so
No.
there's some stuff that feels quite a bit ahead of its time, and there's other stuff where it's like, oh, that's a little cute, that's a little definitely antiquated. So I'd imagine it's aged better than kind of like the '90s internet thrillers, like The Net or whatever with Sandra Bullock. But it's definitely like I feel like it does kind of call it as far as like kind of videos and stuff like that in the future. But in other ways, you see the actual tech, like, oh yeah, this is like very lo-fi for where we are now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's not like 80s technology, but you can definitely see that the internet is relatively new. And you know what it kind of reminds me of? I don't know if you know that show or not, but it reminded me of that. It reminded me of 24.
I have that in my notes. I was going to bring that up. I was like, I don't
Okay,
know if
well,
you're
there you go.
familiar with it, but it's like the split screen. I was originally like, oh, that's like department, but I'm like, wait a second. I think this is like 24 because it's like more real time. Yeah, no, I'm on your wavelength.
Yeah. But well, not just about that, but also because I recently did. I'm actually right now I'm doing a rewatch of 24, and especially when you go into like the first 3 seasons or whatever, there are people who use like palm tops and all of that, and they still have phones that you have to pick up, and it's like, where has time gone, really? Like, because by the end of 24, everybody is using iPhones and whatever. It's like, it's crazy how technology just has evolved over like a relatively short period of time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. But that kind of reminded me a little bit of that, like, for when they use like computers to upload their images and stuff, that feels very like Windows 97 or whatever. It's very
Yeah.
like it's kind of like, and I guess in a way that makes it a little bit dated, maybe, but in I think in the context of the movie, it works actually really well. I feel like so, but I'm sure we're going to get into all of the techno stuff and all of that. But so yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I think this movie is pretty brilliant actually in the way how it's set up and stuff. And if you allow me, I would like to start with one positive on this, and
Yeah.
we can go from there. What I and this actually goes into the whole tech thing and stuff. What I really appreciate about Johnny Toe, because I think this whole topic was not yet discussed at great length when you really think about it. But I really love how he uses the metaphor of the media is corruptible in this movie. And not just on the criminal side, but on the police side as well. Like, everybody, like on both sides, everybody is justifying their actions through the use of webcams and editing and recutting images and videos and all of that, and working it out in such a way that both sides make each other feel guilty when they're in fact not, and all of that. Like, I guess you could almost call it fake news, really. But I really appreciate that Johnny Toe is leading with that sort of like underlying rhetoric, if you will, in this story, and that a lot of the story is based on that concept. How do you feel about that whole angle that he uses in this film?
No, absolutely. I completely agree. And I think that's probably the number one thing that kind of sets it apart from like your average crime thriller, is that you have this extra theme going on that's about like the media. Um, I think there are definitely like some nits to pick that you could pick at if you want to, but I think if you go with it, I think it's pretty interesting just to see it, because like Johnny Toe, I mean, at this point, he's a veteran film director. He's probably directed 50 films at this point. And so he's like very familiar with kind of like how media works and how you can like fix things to look a certain way. And so that's covered in the film. You like literally have kind of the media person working with the cops being like, oh, we'll fix it in post so it looks like we cornered them rather than they like did this big retreat and stuff like that. So I think the manipulation of media and kind of selectively showing what you're doing, where it's kind of like, yeah, it could be fake news, or it could be like kind of just like twisting it just a bit so we look like 30% better, that sort of thing. I think that's covered pretty well, and I think that's definitely maybe the most interesting aspect of the film, at least of the themes of the film.
Yeah, no, and I agree completely, and also like you said, the way it's used, right? I mean, like my favorite scene is still like when the thugs are having dinner, or they cook dinner and they are filming how everybody's eating, and like, oh, look how happy and like relaxed we all are here in this hostage situation. And then the police basically, like, the police are supposed to be like above all of that and be the better man, so to speak. but they basically use the same strategy and like, you know what? Let's hand out food to all the reporters that make us look good and stuff.
It's
Kind of like the irony in that is so funny in a way. Because I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like the police in this movie is very hypocritical when it comes to that. It's like, oh, we're coming in to save the day, and we are going to show, like the movie starts, that Hong Kong is still a safe place. Don't worry, folks, we got you. And then it's like, oh, by the way, but we're also gonna take care of preserving our self-image or whatever. I mean, isn't there a certain hypocrisy in that?
For sure. I mean, I think it's a lot of social criticism, especially towards the police in here and how they're trying to control their image. And yeah, I mean, like you can totally see it. I mean, like I mean, I don't know how it is where you are, but yeah, I mean, like the cops and their images definitely been like a focus. I mean, in the U.S. certainly for the last 5-6 years for sure.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, it's the same in the Netherlands as well. It's getting pretty crazy. And again, not to go political or whatever, but we're having like cabinet elections this month. So, you know, fingers crossed. Let's hope that it will, you know, you know, that's all I'm saying. But anyway, but no, I can definitely relate to that. And it's yeah, I mean, just the way that like power can be abused, like from both sides as well. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can feel that in the United States as well.
For sure.
But like you said, this movie is like a lot ahead of its time in a lot of ways, where it's like, you know, the again, the corruptibility from both sides. And you know, it also shows, I think, how something that starts out with good intentions and honorable like motivations can turn, well, not necessarily dark, but maybe nefarious in a way, because like and that's the moral question I think Johnny To asks in this film. I think so anyway. That's the moral question. Like, where do you draw the line, right? Like, when is enough enough? I mean, can you agree with that? Is that like the main question that we should take out of this movie?
I think so. I mean, like the film is called Breaking News, rather than like something having to do with like cops and robbers or something like that. So yeah, no, I think that's kind of, I mean, it's there from the beginning all the way to the end. So yeah, I mean, I think for like a 90-minute film, it really digs its teeth into some of these themes pretty nicely.
Yeah, I completely agree. So yeah, but let's take it from there. I'll throw it over to you. What are some of your positives when you think about Breaking News?
Well, I mean, I like a lot of aspects to this. I mean, for me at least, a lot of the Johnny To films, especially once he had his own production company, Milky Way, it's a lot of just seeing the way that he like shoots things, like his visual style. It's very it's not very dialogue focused as much as perhaps other directors are, but he shows things in like such an interesting way, and I think they're framed really beautifully. Like the way that it's blocked. None of his films, I think, are particularly high budget. Drug War is probably maybe his highest budget one of them all. And these films he's doing for you know, a fairly small amount of money is certainly on the scope of Hollywood stuff. So I think it's really impressive just the way he shows stuff. In terms of like visual scenes that stood out, I think that opening shot is the thing that most people are going to talk about. Kind of that oneer, or is how people call it these days. But yeah, just the way that it's able to like connect everything together. And it's almost in some ways a perfect kind of symbol for kind of the basic plot of the film, maybe minus the media stuff. Maybe that's the stuff that gets added a little bit later and adds that extra layer to it. But it kind of connects the different things, just the way the camera is going up and down. He's really moving it all around. And it's really, really wonderfully coordinated the way that he's able to do that shootout. where you have kind of the and it sets up everything well, where we have that kind of spinning move where the robber played by Ritchie Gialli like rotates and like shoots the gun out of the guy's hand, things like that, which is really like the thing that the image that like makes it so the cops are like, oh crap, we got to play some media warfare here. So I think just the way that it's all conducted in that first 10 minutes is pretty awesome.
Right. And again, that also goes back to the whole media thing, because actually that's one of my favorite shots of the movie, like that you described with Ritchie Yen, like going and when the cop is holding his hands up and stuff. Fantastic little scene there. It's so good. And the way it's shot as well. But then like because right after that happens, everybody's already with their photo cameras and clicking away pictures and stuff. So again, it goes very back and very well with the whole media thing and stuff. But I'm sure we'll talk about the cinematography a lot more in a bit. But like you said, the start of the movie, the panning shot, like you think like, oh, you see the big city or whatever, and then he lowers the camera and it just focuses on this little shopping mall street or whatever. It's really brilliant. But going to what you said about like making this for a very small amount of money, I have been saying this for so long now that I really think that movies would benefit from a smaller budget, because like it puts challenges on the director, and he has to create really inventive and sort of original ways to capture his story and the film. And with all of these movies that I have like $200 million budgets or whatever, it's like, that's insane. You can do whatever you want without any limitations. You know what it reminds me of? And I don't know if you've seen this movie or not, but I'm becoming a very big Godzilla fan. And I have recently, well, not recently, but I own it anyway. I recently rewatched, because I own it on Blu-ray now, but I saw it in theater. Godzilla -1.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that or not?
I have seen it.
Okay. Yeah. I love that movie so much. It's so great. And but I don't know. I don't remember the name of the director, but he made that movie for $20 million.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane? Like making that kind of a movie with that low, like I call it small, but that small of a budget.
I mean that like that's the blockbuster of the year in Japan. Yeah. So like it is small. I mean, like if you consider like some of the Marvel films or whatever that probably cost $250 million and somehow look like crap. I mean, like,
well, your words, not mine, but you're right.
I mean, this is a cult podcast, so I'm sure that 90% of the people agree with me.
No, you're right though. You're right. But,
so I mean, yeah, it's embarrassing, and I mean, this film probably costs like $1 million, if that, probably less, honestly. Just knowing kind of the limitations of it. And like what he's able to accomplish in that first shot, everything is so complicated. There's like multiple people being shot. There's like lots of property damage. And this is Hong Kong. It's not necessarily like a super cheap place, but it's some great location shooting too. I don't know if you've ever been to Hong Kong, but it feels absolutely like Hong Kong, just kind of like the denseness of it and how tall the city is built up. But yeah, it's really quite wonderful. I mean, they unleash a bunch of smoke, things like that. It's like, the fact that they can do this on such a small budget, I mean, it just shows you like how creative and how many good kind of just craftsmen they have working on the film. Right,
exactly. And going back to Godzilla -1 for a bit, like that shows the quality. Like if you look at Godzilla -1, I mean, like the build sets and like the boats and stuff, and I mean. Of course, it's 20 million instead of 1 million, because you have to make a big CGI monster. But still, I mean, and the story and the characters in that movie are so great, because it's not driven by special effects. It's driven by story and characters. And I think that's so important. And I feel like that is the same case in Johnny To's movies as well. I mean, for as much action there is, it's all about the story and the characters. And I always felt like that was the most important thing. So yeah, it's I completely agree. And what and your take on the Marvel films, yeah, you're right. But like you said, I'm sure most of the people who are watching this will agree with us on that anyway.
Yeah.
But
And the thing with the story and the characters too, and breaking news is like, or his films in general, is like he's able to do it without like just having blab 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 dialogue going on. It's very very visual. Just the way he does it. It's like multiple cooking scenes, just like strange coincidences. It's all done through a very cinematic style.
Right. We'll get more cooking scenes later on, of course, but no, I mean, in that way, it also kind of reminds me a bit of John Carpenter. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of John Carpenter, and who, by the way, a little bit of a sidetrack, but John Carpenter finally got his star on the Walk of Fame after like 100 years or whatever. Like, guys, really? Like, what were you doing? But anyway, that's just on the side. But no, I mean, John Carpenter in a lot of ways has the same sort of way in which he tells a story. Like, you don't need a lot of dialogue. The images speak for themselves.
Yeah.
And John Carpenter does that, and Johnny To does that in a wonderful way. I think in an even more wonderful way when we get to Exiled, but it definitely shines through in Breaking News as well, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. So, but I mean, let's just talk about. You already mentioned it. Let's just talk about the action scenes, because like it's you know what I find interesting. Like, if you look at American action movies, and by the way, I not to disrespect American cinema, I love American movies, but I think what Johnny To proves here is that you don't need big explosions or like hyper speeded like car chases, lengthy car chases, in order to have a good action movie. I mean, the action scenes that he creates in this are visceral, and they are brutal, and they are like fast paced, and so well choreographed that like I never felt like I was missing something. Like oh, where is that car chase? Going back to our love for Italian cinema, of course, but it's I mean, it's just the action in this movie is top notch. I mean, how do you feel about that?
I agree. And he has his own visual style. I mean, Hong Kong, of course, their most famous genre is definitely action too. And he's doing something that's very different from like kind of the martial arts films of like Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung, and very different from kind of the bullet ballets of like John Woo. It's kind of just his own thing. And like it's done with a lot of just like kind of classic movie making. And in many ways, it's kind of like the 80s and the 90s in Hong Kong was like really excess, like more and more, very much like kind of American films in some ways. But here he kind of just brings everything back to its basics. And like, he doesn't have like ridiculous athletes or people that went to like Peking Opera School or something that are starring in his films. It's just very, very well creatively thought out in a way that's just very visually engaging. And I think Exiled, to your point, is probably like the definitely a highlight as far as like that sort of style and of his sort of style of action, but it's definitely present in this film as well.
Right. No. Yeah. Actually, and you know what's funny? I have a lot of action scenes that I love, but my favorite action scene of Breaking News is actually when the film starts, because like you have, like I said, you pan down and you have this shopping mall street, and like basically it feels like a gunfight breaks out, but it feels so guerrilla like. You know, it's almost like you're in like a civil war or whatever, or what, you know what I'm saying? It's like it feels small, but yet it doesn't. And you have like basically it's only like both sides shooting against each other, but it's just so um it has a certain grandeur to it, even though it feels very small. Do you agree with that?
I do. It's one thing I like about a lot of the Poliziotteschi's as well as this film is like when you put these things in like these kind of like dense urban streets, it just adds that like extra sense of danger. You know, it's like people are walking around. It's like there's a lot of people that just live within like a block of like where this action is taking place. The streets feel kind of condensed. It feels like cars are gonna run into other cars very, very quickly. So I love that as just like kind of a nice urban setting. I completely agree.
Yeah, like you said, there are people, and the of course the shop owners are in the line of fire, and you have a certain amount of risk. You feel an amount of risk. But also just with tension building. I mean, you basically see the main characters in the car. Like basically, you don't really know what's going on yet, but you know that they are spying on certain people, and it just like. From one moment to the next, it just escalates, like, you know, into this crazy, like, berserk kind of like, you know, wildfire of bullets, and it's really great. And it's also, you know, it's funny, because Johnny To doesn't make this a comedy or whatever, but he does add little moments of humor in here. Especially with the main characters, but we'll get to that, I'm sure. But I really love that little scene of like guys, we need a distraction, and then the two undercover cops start like fighting with each other. Like, are you messing with my stuff, asshole? And you know, and who are you? What did you say? And then like it's so goofy, but it really works.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think his films are not, maybe Drug War is the exception. That film, I think, was pretty humorless, if I remember correctly. But his films are not like, they're like good hangs. They're not like, oh, I'm going to be like really depressed after watching this or whatever. There's like enough of a lightheartedness and a playfulness to them that they don't feel as heavy as they could otherwise.
Right. Even Exiled, which doesn't end on, well, we'll get to that, but
it's like there you have like the hanging out, and it's just a lot of fun. It's like a vibe hangout film. I mean, never mind how it ends, but
but I mean, but what I mean is even the ending you somewhat feel good about at the end of Exiled. But we'll get to that when we get to the film. But it's I mean, it's really great. Let's just dive into some of the main characters here. How do you like the actors in this and the characters that they portray?
It's interesting. There's a lot of characters here, and it's almost like both of these films are almost just like mostly supporting characters to them. Definitely like more ensemble. But I think everyone's pretty well cast. I mean, I don't know how many of his films you've seen at this point, but you've probably already seen that he likes to cast. He kind of has this troupe of people that he'll cast over and over again, and they kind of moves them around. It's like, okay, in this one, Simon Yam, you're the villain, and then this one, you can be like the good guy. But I think for me at least, I like the character of Rebecca Fong, played by Kelly Chen. She's like the one trying to do the narrative, and she's like very kind of ice queen cold for the majority of the film. She's like, this is how we're going to manipulate it. There's no really jokes about her. And then like when she has to turn on like kind of feminine charms, you see her do that, and you just see her kind of code switch, and then you see them hang up on her. She just goes ice cold that minute. I really like that. I like how they do that scene. I think she's quite good in the film, just kind of playing those different roles. There's no, she expresses very clearly kind of the motives that she's what she's trying to achieve.
Right. She's played by Kelly Chen, I believe.
Yes.
But yeah, it's such as I think she is my favorite of the film, actually. She is such a strong female presence, and but like you said, some moments she's Ice Queen, and then but like she is also she is basically trying to, at the start of the movie, she's still making her career basically, and you can tell that she wants to prove herself to the Force in a certain way. And I feel like that's where a lot of the Ice Queen kind of stuff comes from. It's like, I have to be in a police force that's dominated mainly by men, kind of.
Yeah.
I have to really like push myself and be more extreme in that way. One of my favorite scenes of that is actually when they are in the trailer, like watching the whole thing, and then she wants to like call in the SWAT team or whatever, and her basically her partner says it's like too dangerous or whatever, and you're taking unnecessary risks and all of that stuff, and she basically yells at him like, I don't want to hear all that bullshit, I just want your support. Right? I mean, what do you think about that scene? I think it's really powerful.
No, I think so. I mean, just the dynamics, the power dynamics with her and her other colleagues, who you could tell it's just all done through visuals, but you could tell that he's like a little skeptical of what she's doing. And so they're both kind of representing, they're sort of on the same side, but their goals are like not quite 100% aligned. So I think that's achieved pretty well with just like kind of the side eyes that you see from both of them and them getting into it there.
Right, right. I think her only her one flaw in this is like she never achieves. She never accomplishes to be on the same page with what's his name again, the police inspector Chung, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
They never seem to be on the same page or whatever. Like there's even a moment where she blasts him like, I told you to do this, when the police officer basically clearly thinks like, well, this is the safest bet, so I'm just gonna do this.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing with that character is I feel like if you tell me the synopsis of this film, I feel like the Chung character, that's probably the protagonist that people are going to choose. It's like the crazy rogue cop that is going to catch the criminal at any cost. I mean, that's essentially what he is. But in this film, he's like a side character. So I think that's also a really interesting choice that Johnny To makes, that makes the film a little bit less conventional than it perhaps would have been otherwise.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, he's still an important part of the story,
sure,
of the narrative, but he's like, I would say that Rebecca is the main character of this, and it's but you know what I really love? We'll get back to Rebecca, but what I really love is that I love the dynamic between Chung, the inspector, with played by Nick Chung as well, I believe.
Yeah.
And his co-partner Hoy, who's played by Benz Hui. I'm pretty sure I butchered that, but I mean, they have such a buddy cop thing going on, and it's really like it's not slapstick or whatever, but it feels so lighthearted, like the way that they interact. I mean, you can tell that these two guys have been working for a long time together, and they just, and they don't take shit from each other, and like it's like, but they are best friends or whatever. And it's like, but they have such the banter that they have sometimes is so, I mean, it's so great. Without it, it doesn't become comedy, but it feels very lighthearted and fun. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I really like the Hui Si Hung. I'm probably mispronouncing it as well. Like the actor that plays him too. I mean, he's also in Exiled as well. And both of the films, it looks like he just has like chronic indigestion. He's just like so uncomfortable for both films. I mean, that's basically his role. It's like the old guy that's like worried about his future. So yeah, he's good. I mean, like, and I think that's the thing that Johnny To is so efficient about. He's able to establish these relationships. And I mean, like, there's so many characters in this film in such a short amount of time where it's like, okay, I actually know kind of what he's going for with these two characters, how they probably worked together for a while. And one of these guys is like the older, more timid guy, and how Nick Chung is like kind of the driving force.
Yeah. Right. No, I agree. It's but yeah, going back to the Hoy character for a bit, it's just so much fun, and like what and sometimes it's like do you guys even get each other? Because one of my favorite scenes is actually when Chung is hungry and they basically say, let's go look for something to eat, and then they park the car and Hoy gets out and he starts looking around, and then Chung just goes to this like vendor of like sweet potatoes or whatever. And I'm like, every time I'm watching that, it's like, Hoy, what are you doing? It's right there, And he's just scouring all of these, restaurants that are probably closed or whatever. It's so good.
Yeah. And then, I mean, like that sweet potato stuff, just an example of how well thought out the film is. It's like they have that sweet potato and then they go into like the apartment where the criminals were, and you see that same sweet potato that they probably bought from the same vendor that's set up at like the altar. So I was, and they don't even really refer back to that or anything. It's just like, oh, they were here just recently. And that's just accomplished surely through kind of just visual cinematic language of like establishing one thing and then showing you later.
Right. No, and exactly. And like you said, by not what you say, not mentioning it, I mean that disposes. I mean Johnny To disposes on the audience that we are smart. Like I don't need to explain it. You can figure that out for yourself. It's like it's basically the same vendor or whatever,
Yeah.
So, and of course, then we have the main villain who is played by Ritchie Yen, and his character is Yuen, I think. I probably butchered that again, but and I think he's pretty great.
Yes.
He has a much bigger role in this than he does in Exiled. In Exiled, he's more of a supporting role, I think. But I think as an antagonist, he works very well, because here's the thing, like, even though you hate the guy, I mean, I always look for some kind of like, with movie villains, you're always looking for like some slivers of redeeming qualities and stuff. And the one thing about Yuen or Huen, or however you pronounce it, the one thing you can say about him is that he is a very honorable man. He will stand by his thieves, if you will, I think. What's your take on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think sort of like Nick Chung's character, he's cut pretty close to the cloth. It's like not too much deviations, but I think Ritchie Gialli does a good job with the character and how there is that sort of camaraderie between them that you also see in Exiled, but in that sense, it's from a very, very different point of view. One interesting thing that I'm not sure if you picked up on, but I thought might be interesting for the people listening to, is I don't know if you're familiar with like the differences between Mandarin and Cantonese, but the criminals in this film were all speaking Mandarin to each other. So they're presumably from the mainland, whereas like Hong Kong, it's a principally Cantonese speaking area. So the rest of the film, the language is Cantonese, but in the sense of like Ritchie Gialli or Chan talking to his different like criminal groups, including the different criminal group that they run into later, they're all speaking Mandarin, which has its own set of implications there. And that's something I don't know that you could do in today's Hong Kong, where they're pretty sensitive about kind of portraying the mainlanders as like criminals or whatnot. It's far more likely to see kind of like corrupt bankers or something like that in today's Hong Kong films than kind of the mainland criminals coming over to the much more prosperous Hong Kong and committing crimes.
No, right. No, I actually, I never picked up on that. But I'm just, I'm just not very familiar with like Asian languages and stuff. So I wouldn't.
Yeah. No, I mean,
no,
understandably. Yeah. I mean, I took Mandarin in high school, so that's the only reason that I'm able to pick up on that. So yeah.
Fair enough. No, fair enough. I mean, that explains it. But yeah, I'm just not very familiar with Asian. I just say Asian languages. So sure. I wouldn't know. So it's like, it is what it is. But it's Before we go into that, actually, one more character we have to mention, of course, and I actually really love this part of the movie is Lam Suet character, his character Yip, the single father with the kids, the two little kids. I mean, that whole family dynamic is it's very wholesome. I mean, it's lighthearted, but it is, you can really tell that it's a caring father who wants to support for his family, and then like this thing happens all of a sudden. It's like, even like when the big explosion happened, it's like, and the kids immediately noticed it, and he runs out of the kitchen. It's like, what was that? What's happening? You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of like, but it's a loving, caring father. And you know, actually, one of my favorite scenes with him is when he's first introduced and the bandits are going into his apartment, and the one guy, I forgot his name, but he takes his little girl into the side room, and then you hear a gunshot, and Johnny Toe makes you think, oh my god, he just killed a kid. And then he comes out and it's actually in the pillow. I mean, that's such a brilliant scene. And the reaction on Yip's face, Lam Suet's face, I mean, that's again such good filmmaking. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of knew. I mean, this is my third time seeing the film, so I knew.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah.
But it's no, I mean, he's so good at playing with the audience, playing with different expectations and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of Lam Suet in general. I mean, like, I feel like Johnny Toe, sort of like those Italian film directors, they're just good at casting these guys with these unique faces. You're like, oh, I remember that guy. And I feel like Lam Suet in like half the films is credited as Fatty. So it's a miracle that here he was Yip. But he's good. He's always like a little buffoonish and bumbling, but like in here you could tell he's kind of like a good guy at heart, and like his dynamic with his kids feels fairly realistically made. And I mean, like another good example, kind of to go back to our earlier conversation of like setting this in like the very dense Hong Kong, is like it does give it that extra sense of danger. The fact that like they go from kind of the street into this apartment building where probably hundreds of people live in like a very, very dense space, and you have like explosions and things like that. And so that sense of danger comes directly into the home, which is kind of terrifying in its own way.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess in some way you can. There are certain hints of like a home invasion film as well, I guess, in a certain way. Yeah, I mean, again, going back to the action scenes, it's like it's small, tense, cramped up hallways where the action takes place, and that's just so brilliant. I mean, like. In terms of explosions, by the way, the gas tank one, when the other thugs, which I have something to say about the other thugs, but we'll get into that. Sure. But the big explosion of the gas tank that he is like throwing out there and stuff, that's pretty great as well. But let's just talk about Hong Kong itself, because Hong Kong is such a perfect location for a film like this. It's and the way that Johnny Toe shoots it and exploits it, I mean, you can basically have this as it could almost be like an American city, like Los Angeles or whatever, right?
Yeah, it could. But I mean, it definitely feels like its own place, though. It's like so. Yeah. I mean, Hong Kong is a very unique city, just in general. But no, I mean, I think it's a perfect location. I love it as just like a location for like this urban warfare going on.
Yeah, urban warfare. Yeah. I mean, I have never been to Hong Kong, but it's. I mean, just how the city looks, it's pretty great actually. So, do you have any more positives on breaking news?
Let's see. I think that covers most of it. I thought one of the final interesting things that I did notice in the credits of the film too is that it actually does have a martial arts coordinator, which I thought was interesting, who is
Right.
Yuen Boon, who is actually one of the Seven Little Fortunes with like Jackie Chan and those guys. So kind of just
Right.
interesting to see, even though it's a very it's not a martial arts film at all. So it's just interesting to see that as far as like a credit. I don't know exactly what he did. Maybe helped coordinate some of the fighting or whatnot. But interesting. But yeah, no, I think that covers most of what I already had on my list.
Okay. Well, I have one more thing to say here, and of course, I think the soundtrack is pretty sweet as well. I think we should mention that at least. I really like the soundtrack. I believe it's done by Chung Wing, if I pronounce it right. And it's a very strange sort of type of music he chooses for it, but it works pretty well, I would say. I'm not as familiar with Asian soundtracks as I am with Italian ones, of course, but I think it works pretty well for the film, I would say.
Yeah.
I actually like the soundtrack for Exiled better, but we'll talk about
it. Yeah, I was gonna say the one in Exiled sticks in my head a little bit stickier than this one, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely I think he generally chooses pretty appropriate film music.
Right. So I think I'm pretty much done with positives. I have one issue that I want to discuss with this film.
Sure.
But before I do, I'll throw it over to. Do you have like any negatives for Breaking News?
I do have one. And I think it's just in general. I think that a lot of the Johnny To films do kind of exist in this world that's not terribly realistic in a way. And so a lot of it depends on giving yourself over to the film and just kind of going with what a director is putting out there, which I do recommend people do with this film. But I do feel like at a certain point, you could be like, why do the robbers care so much about like kind of this media warfare? And at points, it can feel perhaps a little bit forced. So I think if you were kind of picking at the film and trying to pick at some flaws, that's probably what I would that feels like the most obvious one to take a look at. It's like these people are like fighting for their life and death. Why do they care about like what some people on the internet think?
Right. No, I mean you definitely get it from the police side of it, because they want to fix their reputation and of course prove to the people of Hong Kong that they do actually matter. But anyway, we talked about that at length already. But yeah, I mean, you can make a point to like the villains don't really have a reason to use social media to fight like their war for them. It's just there, and it's like it's just something suspension of disbelief, I guess. And
exactly, yeah.
And but for this film, I can pretty much do that, because it doesn't go to anything very extreme or whatever. Johnny To keeps it very subtle. If the bandits were starting to use drones to attack the police or whatever, then I would have been like, that's one step too far. But sure. It's I think Johnny To keeps it very subtle, so I can go with it. All right, that's interesting. You definitely have a point there. My main issue with this one, I only have one, and that is that as much as I love this movie, and as much as I really love like the bandits and the main villain, I feel like the other bad guy, like what's his name again? Chen, I believe, played by Yong. Because there is like a second bad guy introduced, basically, I think halfway through the film, whatever, something like that. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. The hitman.
Yeah, the hitman, when they cook together and stuff. I do feel like that is coming a little bit out of left field.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, intentionally so. But yeah, I mean, I could get that for sure. I mean, I feel like Johnny To likes these like very weird coincidences where you run into this person and then all of a sudden it just changes the whole dynamic. And so that's kind of what's happening here. And I could understand not getting totally on board with that. because it is confusing. It's like, wait, what's happening exactly? And they're like, oh, we rescued the wrong people. I'm like, okay, so we're getting introduced to these two new characters in the middle, and I mean, yeah, it is confusing.
Right. Well, right. Well, I mean, I have seen the film like you three or four times now, so it's like, I can, I know it's coming, but I would have been okay with that if that would have been more earlier at the start of the film, but it just throw that in like the middle of your film. That is kind of like, did you really need that? I don't know. It's something to like, I don't know. It's that always is like the thing of like, did you really did you really think that you didn't have enough bad guys here? Like, what's the I don't know what his like idea was, but that's
but just... it leads to like kind of the Johnny Toe scene, which has become kind of standard, where they bond over food and that kind of stuff. So
yeah. Exactly.
It is interesting where it leads, but yeah, I mean, it could feel a bit contrived just the way they kind of come up with that scenario.
Yeah. By the way, one more thing before we go, probably go into ratings. Isn't it funny that like the kids are cooking for their dad, but when the moment arrives, they don't know how to plug in a thing in a socket?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you guys cooking all day for your father? Really? Like,
probably just eating sweet potato from the street vendor, I guess.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it is. Yeah, I thought that was just like, anyway, fun, lots of fun. But yeah, no, I think I'm pretty much done with this one. So if you don't have anything else, we can go into ratings.
Sure.
All right. So would you like to start, or do you want me to go first?
I can go. For me, this is I have it at 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Okay. I'm a little bit higher than you because I really dig this film. Even though sometimes you have to suspend your disbelief and whatever. And, that one character doesn't make a lot of sense. I really dig this movie. I really do. It has so much going for it. The social commentary is great in this one as well, of course. I just really dig this film. I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
I'll give it a 9. By the way, before we move on, how did you watch this? Did you watch
on the Criterion channel, which I'm a member of?
Oh, okay. There you go. I have this one. It's there is
Chameleon.
Yeah. You know it. Chameleon Films. Yeah. They have a label and they released this on their disc. So
that's an Australian company, is that right?
Yeah, it's an Australian label. Yeah, and they do exclusively like films like this, Asian stuff. So that's where I bought it. Chameleon Films, breaking news, and that's how I watched it. So yeah, that's my release anyway. But yeah, 9 out of 10. That's my rating for it. So all right. So that was the first one. I guess we move on to Exiled then. Again, I don't really have like a synopsis here, but I think the best way to describe this, it's a gangster film, of course, a Yakuza film maybe, and
Triad would be the Chinese term.
Yeah. Oh, Triad. Yeah, Triad. Yeah. And it's I guess it's kind of like this sort of this dysfunctional group of like people who used to be friends. Who used to be best friends, and they go on like a final mission together to provide for the wife and kid of one of the guys that basically one of the other guys has to take out for like a mob boss. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think 2 of them are supposed to kill him and 2 of them are supposed to protect him.
Yeah.
And so they the first 20 minutes of that, they're playing out that dynamic.
Yeah, and that's kind of like where the friction starts and stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of the gist of the story, really. So yeah, let's just dive into it. Exiled. What are some of your? Let's just start with general thoughts again. What are some of your general thoughts on Exiled?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a film that relies even more on its cast in this case, like the dynamic in particular. You don't have as much of an ensemble cast in this one, but you do have it kind of split between these four characters. And so, yeah, I was surprised how many similarities there are. I hadn't watched these two films kind of back to back like this, just in terms of like the different kind of Johnny Toe-isms with it, of like kind of bonding together and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I think this even more than Breaking News is really kind of like a vibing film. It breaks out into these like kind of semi-elaborate shootouts at different points. I think there's 3 or 4 of them throughout the film, but a lot of it is just hanging out with these 4 or 5 guys, depending on if what has happened to Wa yet. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to that, but
yeah.
No, I really agree. I think this is like really. I think the biggest thing about this movie, and again, I wanna give kudos to Johnny Toe. I just really love the story in this one, and I think it's basically all about, you know, the conflicting sides of friendship versus duty, basically. Like, you have these guys that were once like really like best friends, and now they're kind of like on opposite sides of each other, all because of like one asshole, which we'll get to, I'm sure. You know who I'm talking about. But and it's just like this thing that one of the guys has to do. It just fractures the group in a certain way, and you really start to have like, what is more important, friendship and family, or the cause of like the duty that you have to do in terms of like employment, or however you want to call it, right? Or forced labor or whatever. How do you see that whole thing?
No, I think that's exactly right. It's relatively simple once you distill it down to its elements. And it's really, I mean, it's one of the things I like about cinema is like just, it's more about how the story is told and what Johnny Toe does with it. But it's a very simple kind of premise that he has to work with it. But I honestly think this is one of his best films, from how he kind of establishes these different characters to the different shootouts that occur and to how it finishes. It has a very poetic feel to it that I feel like it kind of elevates it even above something that I really like Breaking News.
Right. No, I would say that I like this over Breaking News as well. Mainly because the story is so good, even though it's really simplistic, but the story is so good, and it has a lot of emotional beats as well in this. Like, the movie basically starts with like, let's just talk about. I'm sure we'll get to it again, but one of the biggest action scenes of this movie, I think, in the room with where Wo lives, of course, with the flying door. Like that's kind of like a Johnny Toe thing, right? But then then they have kind of like a stalemate, and then what follows is this sort of montage of just really sweet and nice scenery of friends helping each other build a home for their friend and family. Basically, they fix the mirror and all of that, and they like make the carpenter guy, or for whatever, Suet, of course, he fixes the floor, and then one other guy cooks while the other one dresses chairs and stuff. It's the friendship between the characters is just so wholesome. Apart from the conflict, of course, but the friendship between all these guys is just so wonderful, and it's really great to see. Like, do you agree with that?
I do, yeah. I mean, I think that's really kind of the heart of the film. It's like if that doesn't work for you, then the film in general is going to have zero emotional resonance.
Right. No,
Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, it's really great. This film has so much. This film has so much going for it. So let's just dive into it. Let's start with positives again. What are some of the things you love about Exiled?
This is maybe not the primary thing, but I like the setting a lot. This one is actually not set in Hong Kong. This one's in Macau, which has a very different feel to it than Hong Kong, it being a Portuguese colony and all. So I think just kind of hanging out there is interesting. It also is very different because it's mostly kind of in this like Macau that feels like it's almost like depopulated. And I think that's just mostly because it like takes place mostly at night. So it doesn't have that kind of like very dense urban feel that Hong Kong, the Breaking News has. So I like what Johnny To does with the setting a lot, where it has, it almost feels a little bit like a pandemic film in some ways, where it's just like very distilled down to very, very few characters. And I think the way that he stages the action here is maybe some of the best that he's done it. And he has a very distinctive style. And I think he kind of elevates kind of even what he did in Breaking News in this one. Just with like the flipping tables, like the Red Bull cans going into the air. I don't know if Red Bull sponsored this film, but it's pretty cool edition of Red Bull. And just like the different shootouts and like the chaos and stuff. I just really like how he does all of it.
Right. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but yeah, you're right. This film has a sort of desolate feeling. Like when you talk about Macau, I always wondered, is it Macau or Macau? But you just said Macau, so you know.
Which I hope is right.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's what I've heard the most. So
okay.
I hope it's correct. Yeah.
Okay, we'll just go with that, Macau. Yeah. People can correct us in like the comments or whatever later on if that's like if we are wrong about that. But we'll just say Macau. But yeah, there is a sort of desolate feeling to it. I mean, there is like one panning shot of when they are in their truck going to the Triad Hotel, basically, and there are some people walking on the streets, but it's very far in between, and you're right. It almost feels like you're in the ghetto of Macau, really, in a sort of way. Like people don't want to be seen on the streets or whatever. And the funny thing is, it's like not even that. We also go into the mountains at some point in this film. So you know that's there, of course. But we'll get to that, I'm sure. But yeah,
I do wonder if that's just what Johnny To thinks of Macau, even though I think Macau is incredibly dense as well. So
yeah. I mean, isn't Macau like this big, really big city or whatever?
It's much smaller than Hong Kong, but it's like a short boat ride. You take a ferry over there. I've done it once. It's like an hour.
Okay.
But it's like basically kind of like the Las Vegas there. It's where they have like all the gambling and stuff like that. So people go over to Macau to gamble, although you don't really see that aspect of it in this film.
No, you don't.
No. But yeah, it's kind of like the Las Vegas of that part of Asia.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, you don't see that in this film at all. But it's no, but that really works out very well. And like you said, the action scenes, that's one of my big pluses of this movie. The action scenes is like what my favorite action scene of this movie is when they are in the hospital owned by the black market doctor.
Yes.
And you have
that's an amazing scene.
The shootout with all of the drapes, or how do you say, the curtains, the drapes, or whatever. That's so good. And the way that it's choreographed, again, I don't know who directed all of these action scenes, but that's just so. I mean, and it feels like you're in the action with the characters. So that's really
And the tension there too, how it just waits and waits. It doesn't give you that set piece immediately. It takes them a bit to realize before like Well wakes up. It's like, oh crap, it's Simon Yam's character here. So it like just holds you in suspense where everyone's just like hiding out, waiting for the people to realize who else is there. I think it's perfect. Yeah, I really like that one as well. And then Simon Yam just like taking shots at It's just brutal.
Oh my god. We'll talk about characters in a little bit, but yeah, I mean that action scene is so great. And a lot of it, there is a lot happening there. I mean, like Lam Suet's character Fat is like trying to push Wo away from the danger and stuff, and while Anthony Wong is just going gun blazing crazy against like what's his name again? Egg roll whatever. What's his name again? Oh my, it's Gordon Lamb. That's the actor, but
Yeah.
I forgot the name of the character. But
let's
you know,
see what's his name. Boss Kung.
Oh yeah, Boss Kung. Yeah, that's and
the doctor is trying like working on Sam and Yam's like
while all the shooting takes place. Yeah, it's so funny.
And the prostitute that's over is just like stealing his money.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like 20 things happening. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the doctor runs after him, and it's like, and the Simon Yam character is like, "You're not finished with me, you dick," and he just kills the doctor.
In the back.
Like,
yeah.
Well, who do you have now to fix your damn leg right there? Come on.
Yeah.
No, but it's really great. And but in terms of like we already talked, let's just talk about the characters. I mean, starting with Simon Yam. I mean, Big Boss Fei, I believe it is, right? With this one. And he is a main character in this one. He was more supporting in breaking news, but you don't see like there are a lot of villains. You don't see a lot of villains who are so sadistic and just nasty as Simon Yam's character is. I mean, like you said, the scene where first of all they throw Woe out of the window, and he goes like he falls down like 10 stories or whatever, as if that isn't bad enough. But then he just takes the gun and he points it out the window, and he just keeps shooting like one bullet at a time, very slowly. It's oh my god, what a monster it is, right?
Yeah. I mean, Simon Yam's so good. He can play anything. I mean, like the guy was like I think he was like a male model before he started acting and stuff like that. So he's like he's kind of like middle aged, but I don't know if you're familiar with his work in the 90s.
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
He starred in a lot of kind of Category 3 films, which are like kind of their very extreme ones, where he's playing like these like extremely sadistic serial killers and stuff like that. I think you'd like him. So I do recommend you watch something like Dr. Lamb or whatever. But he's really good at doing that. But he's also really good at playing like these really heartwarming roles in these Johnny To films too. Yeah, it's he's great. I mean, he just holds the screen so well. He's like almost the perfect kind of like character actor. Like you could argue he's one of the leads here. He's definitely one that gets a fair amount of screen time, but he's so good at playing just whatever he wants. But here he's just playing like the really terrifying mob boss. And he's just a great villain that's able to like unite all these guys where it's just like, yeah, screw that guy. We got to go against Boss Fei.
Yeah. No, he's just the most evil of the most evil in this one, and it's really great. Actually, like you said, I recently seen Sparrow of Johnny To.
Oh, that's a good one where he's like the good guy. Yeah, he's awesome.
I mean, he's kind of like the father figure of the pickpockets and stuff. By the way, there was no action in that film, but what a wonderful film. I really love that one.
I love it too. Yeah.
It's really
that one's very much on the wholesome Johnny To side.
Yeah. It's really great. I was really surprised. It was like, wow, this is completely different, but it's really great. But you know what's funny? I own a lot of Category 3 titles. And I don't think Simon Yam is in any of them. So I have to do some research there. I don't know.
Okay. Well, surely you recognize the other icon of Category 3 in this film, Anthony Wong.
Of course, Anthony Wong. It's like
Ebola.
Yeah, as he's called Blaze, right? In this one, I think so. I think he's called Blaze.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the actor that I always have been a big fan of. I mean, Anthony Wong is so great. I mean, I've seen him in Exiled now. The Untold Story is great. Ebola Syndrome, I believe it's called, is so bonkers. It's like, that's so bizarre. Like,
yeah. That's one of those films where you can't believe it's being made. I mean, and he's sort of like Simon Yam. He could do anything. I mean, like his character couldn't be any more different from like the crazed guy in Ebola syndrome who's running around with like a thing saying like, I'm going to give everyone Ebola. Which he did like 10 years before this. So yeah, I mean, I love Anthony Wong. I think he's an awesome actor, and he's really, really good here, playing kind of like the de facto leader of the kind of the 4 hitmen.
Yeah. Well, I think he's the most conflicted character in this one, because he is the guy who is supposed to kill one of his best friends under orders from. He's the guy who is supposed to pull the trigger, basically. But then, of course, they work out this deal like, all right, I will help you basically create a pension for your family, and then we can, do whatever needs to be done. No, he's great in this. I love him in, that's another film I love him in, Motorway, actually. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah, that's where he's kind of like the more kind, like mentor-like role to the young cop. But he's really great in that as well.
Yeah. I think Johnny To produced that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. But he's really great in that. Yeah, Anthony Wong is just great.
Infernal Affairs too, maybe even his most seen film.
Infernal Affairs. Yeah. There you go. It's probably never going to happen, but I really hope that I'm going to meet him at a con or an event sometime. Which I doubt will ever happen, but we can always hope. No, Anthony Wong is great, and let's just talk about the rest of the cast. I mean, I think my other favorite character in this film, apart from Simon Yam and Anthony Wong, is Josie Ho, who plays Jin, and I think again a very strong female character. It's a smaller role for sure. But I really just love what her character does and what her story is in this film. It basically starts kind of like as a hopeful housewife, and then it basically transforms into like, well, I'm gonna kill all of you bees because you basically caused the murder of my husband, really. So how do you look at Jin's character played by Josie Ho?
I like it a lot too. I think she's good. And I mean, like in some ways it could be kind of like a very kind of thankless part, but I think she does good work with kind of like, I think Kelly Chen in Breaking News had a juicier role than Josie Ho does here, but I think she does a lot with a little bit here. And I think she's quite good. I'm a fan of hers. I think she's good in a lot of different films. I don't know if you've seen Dream Home, kind of in the same era, but that's a kind of a good classic Hong Kong horror about kind of the real estate market there. I recommend it. Yeah.
Okay. Dream Home. I'll remember it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, she is in Motorway where she plays kind of like the police commissioner. And she's good in that as well. But I would say that her character is better in the second half than in the first half of the film with Exiled. There is one really great scene, though, that I want to mention, and that is after the shootout, after they had dinner and smoked cigars and stuff. By the way, what a small thing here. I mean, when they take pictures and stuff, she has the baby, right, on her, thing. And seriously, guys, you're all smoking in front of the baby? Really? It's so funny.
Well, it is like, in their defense, it's about the 37th most dangerous thing that happens in this film.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, probably the health advisory in Macau would not recommend.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of secondhand smoke there.
Yeah, no, exactly. Look, I shouldn't judge because I have been a smoker in the past, so guilty as charged. But I mean, still, it, like, really, guys, when the baby is there, like, really? But it is what it is. But one of my favorite scenes with Josie Ho actually is when they are after dinner, after smoking cigars, they are about to go to bed, and Wo takes the bottle of whiskey or rum or whatever it is, and he basically pours a glass and he just holds it out in front of her. And again, no dialogue, just the audience can figure it out for themselves. That scene basically says, like, Wo is basically saying to her, like, look, I know we freaked you out today with all this stuff. I know you probably been scared out of your mind, so maybe you should just get drunk right here. So just take the damn whiskey. And she just starts like pouring it down, like one glass after another and stuff. I love that scene. It's so great. It's so great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Also, probably not recommended behavior for a breastfeeding mom, but you know, it is what it is.
That's very true.
You can go right there with the smoking.
Right. That's very true. That's very true. But what I do love though is that they again, very wholesome. They all sleep in the same bed, like all three together. Like the baby is not like in a crib or whatever. It's They all sleep together, and then Wo gives him this like little. Well, the sound of the film that's most of the sound of the film, of course, is like the what do you call? I don't know what you call it. The ankle thing with the jingle bells or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but yeah, it's just I really love her character. And then when she is when they bring a dead Wo back to her home, basically, she has a very short moment where it's like, how did he die and whatever, and she of course is very sad and grieving over his body. But then she just runs over to the suitcase and grabs the gun and she just starts shooting all of them. And then she runs out of the house and then she starts shooting at the car. And it's like, it's not like you're going to hit anything, but I mean, but I can understand the emotion behind it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, she blames them, especially Anthony and Wong, for his death.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's there's so much great stuff in here. So let's just continue on. What else do you appreciate about Exiled?
I don't know if it's my favorite scene in the film, but it's another good one where they just start kind of they're like, well, what do we do next? And they just start kind of wandering around. We have a lot of hanging out, and then they just kind of stumble upon, you know, those little sprinkles that Johnny Toe had put out earlier about like that gold caravan. Right. And you know, there's a couple of moments here where I'm like, this is like kind of Johnny Toe's Western in a way. One of the moments is kind of in the hospital, or the fake hospital, where it kind of like has that tension that you have before like a gunfight in Western. And the second moment is a lot more obvious, where they're actually in the wilderness and they see kind of the heist happening. And the film is just filled with like these coincidences, but they're coincidences that also make sense, because we know that Jeff had been kind of like floating around people to kind of do this robbery. And so what we find out is that there was actually he had found someone to do the robbery. And so while they weren't going to like participate, they end up defending the caravan briefly, where we have the great introduction to another character by Ritchie, who plays a complete badass in this film, who just like is lighting up a cigarette and smoking while he's killing people. I think that one's okay by the disease control people, but he's he's shooting at people. And like one of the hitmen played by Roy Chung, Cat, is just like delighted by this like badass mowing people down. And so they like help him out, and they're like, well, he's like, well, shit. It's like, they're going to think that I stole this, so I might as well steal it anyways with you guys. So I like that kind of like camaraderie that they extend to him at that moment too. So I think that's a really wonderful scene too. I mean, the film is just like one of those scenes after another where we have this great kind of like male bonding between the four of them to like these pretty awesome action set pieces. And that one feels very different from anything you see in the rest of the film. because it's far more of kind of like this Western feel to it, very different from anything in Breaking News. And I can't really think of another shootout quite like that in Johnny To either, just because he's so kind of like centered in these urban crime environments in Hong Kong. So I think that's another one that definitely sticks out that I think is worth talking about.
Right. No, yeah, exactly. And it's like, and it's funny you say Western, because when that whole thing starts of them driving into the wilderness, Johnny To actually in puts in some, I guess you call it country music or whatever. I mean, the soundtrack feels very folk like or country like when they are driving into the mountains and stuff. By the way, beautiful scenery, especially when they are lying on the hillside and they see the caravan passing in the distance. Like, really wonderful scenery there. It looks really great. But yeah, I mean, Ritchie Yen, I mean, like you said, the guy is like, while he's smoking, he's single-handedly killing all of these bandits and stuff. It's really like, it's really great. But I really, like you said, the camaraderie. I really love how Anthony Wong basically brings him like the deal or whatever. It's like, how much ton of gold do you have there? And it's like, well, it's about this and this and this. Well, you can't carry that all that on your own. So why don't we just split it? It's really, it's great. It's it's simplistic, but it works very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and that action scene is actually pretty great as well. I would say, where Ritchie Yen is just going berserk on all of these guys. So yeah, it's I agree, it's really great. But yeah, let's just talk about the again, the soundtrack for a bit. We already talked about it a little bit, but the soundtrack for this one is done by Guy Zerafa. I probably butchered that again, but I love the soundtrack for Exiled more than I love the soundtrack for Breaking News. I already played like the probably the most famous tune in the intro, but like I said, there is some country music in there, but also the scenes where you have something very sad happening, right? With Wo's death, or later on as we go to the ending, of course. It's a very sad and slow theme, which is, I mean, it's so funny because it feels like it's played on just two single notes on the piano.
Yeah.
Like, does that make sense? How do you look at that?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, like, it's very different. I while you were talking, I looked up Guy Zerafa, someone I'm not familiar with. It looks like he scored a couple films for Johnny To, but he's Canadian.
Okay.
And he's wearing a cowboy hat, so maybe that explains the full feel to it. But yeah, no, I think it's a very unusual soundtrack for to choose for kind of like a Hong Kong or Macanese movie, depending on what you call it. But yeah, no, I think it's very memorable. I mean, right when you have the start of the podcast, you like to play the soundtracks of the films we're going to cover. And I was like, oh yeah, hell yeah, this is a good piece. Because usually we're playing like Italian bangers, where it's just like you can't go wrong with those. But in Hong Kong, it's a little more varied. Not everything is like a showstopper, but this one I think suits the film perfectly. And the way it plays over the credits, I love the way that it just kind of fades into that music too. So I'm a fan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of like my intro videos, I will keep that probably for always. I mean, I just like to do that, you know, like play the soundtracks of the films that we're going to discuss. But yeah, I mean, the soundtrack is really great in this one, and it's such a varied score in here, where I think Breaking News had like a bit more simplicity to the soundtrack. There are more flavors here to be had, I feel like, in Exiled for music wise.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the score really works for this, and it's so yeah, really great. So what else do you want to say about Exiled in terms of positives or whatever?
I don't have too much more, but I feel like Johnny To made kind of this second career for himself after the handover of just casting tons of different side actors, like character actors in like these big parts. I mean, like all of these guys, like you look at the four hitmen, like none of those guys are like really traditional leading people. It's like you got like Lamb Sweat again, who is great in all the films, just a great presence. We haven't even talked
Yeah.
about him for this. You have
Oh
Anthony
yeah.
Wong, of course. You have Simon Yam in a villain role here. You also have Roy Chung. I don't know if you're familiar with Roy Chung, but he played a lot of villains in like the 80s and the 90s.
Okay.
Really, really good. He plays Cat here, and he's very, very silent, but he's oftentimes like a very intimidating triad type in those. But Johnny To just uses them so differently than they were, and it's almost like he reinvented these actors into these different things. So, like, if you ever hear Anthony Wong talk about Johnny To, he's like very thankful for him that he was able to get him out of like these category 3 roles where he's like, oh damn it, I gotta play another guy that like chops up people into pork buns and feeds them to the populace. It's like he is much more diverse and different stuff. I mean, Anthony Wong, I think obviously a very professional guy, but I think he liked to see himself in more serious roles like this one. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate what Johnny To just does with kind of like all those small things, like the side characters, and just kind of giving people, giving these different Hong Kong character actors kind of their main role. It's like we're beyond that era of like Jackie Chan and Chow Yun Fat and stuff here. So I think it's, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said a very interesting thing there, because like that's the case with a lot of actors. Like they start in horror and then later on they get their like Oscar movies and stuff. Like Leonardo DiCaprio was in like I don't even know in which horror movie he was, but he started out in horror and now he's winning Oscars by the tropes and stuff. It's like it's kind of funny how you start your career in horror and then like move on to the highbrow elevated movie stuff. It's kind of like it's almost like a gimmick or whatever, you know. It's kind of fun. It's kind of funny when you look at it that way. But no, yeah, Lamb Sweat is in this one. He doesn't have like as big of a role as in Breaking News. By the way, he is called Fatty in this one.
Yeah.
Just saying. By the way, no insults or whatever if you're watching Lamb Sweat. I don't think he is. But if you're watching, no insults or whatever.
For those unfamiliar, that's part of like the Cantonese film culture over there. Certainly at the time, it's like if you're big, and it's not even that big by Western standards, you're fatty.
Yeah,
it's just what they call you. I have you seen The Mission by Johnny?
Yeah, that's okay. Actually one of the that and Drug War. Those two were the two I've seen actually. Yeah,
I feel like The Mission is like the perfect companion to this. I mean, some people have even said that Exile is kind of the sequel, quote unquote, to that, where you have like the 4 hitmen bonding together in that film too. In that case, to save someone, if I remember correctly. That one's a really amazing film too. It has a lot of kind of the same buddy moments as Exiled does.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I haven't watched The Mission in like forever. I'm kind of hoping that Chameleon Films will release it at some point. We'll see. Fingers crossed. But yeah, no, The Mission and Drug War. Those were the two I've seen actually. Yeah. I do love Francis Ning, who plays Tai in this movie actually. He's kind of the one who goes against Anthony Wong's character. He's the one who's most pressured into like saving Wo's life, for like this is the wrong thing, we can't do this, all of that, that sort of stuff. So I really love his character in here as well. I believe he's called Francis Ning or Nang or whatever. I probably butchered it anyway, but
yeah, it's Ing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's great. And then of course, like we said, Macau is great. I think Macau as a location works very well, because it makes it such a unique film in the catalog of Johnny To, because most, like you said, most Johnny To movies are very, very urban based. They could almost take place in New York or Los Angeles or whatever, like I already mentioned. But this one is such an outlier in that aspect, and I really appreciate it for that as well. It feels very different.
Yeah, I mean, it's for anyone that ever goes to Hong Kong, I do recommend going to Macau for like a day or something. It has a very different feel to it, just because of who colonized it and whatnot. Like the architecture is very different. The culture is still somewhat similar, but it's just got a different feel to the whole city than kind of Hong Kong does.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I might maybe I will go to Hong Kong eventually in the future, because it just it looks like such a interesting city, to be in. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I turned 42 in September this year, so where has time gone, right? Where is time going? But no, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, Macau works very well. Actually, it works very well. So
yeah, I mean, we talked about heroin busters here, right? I mean, they went to Hong Kong too. So there you go.
Wasn't that Singapore?
I think.
Or was it Hong Kong?
I think it's Hong Kong. I mean, Hong Kong was like all the rage back then because of Bruce Lee and stuff. So
interesting. Okay.
Just do the Heroin Busters tour.
Yeah. Interesting. I'll have to look that up, because the Heroin Buster starts like in the harbor, right? With the boats.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's Hong Kong Harbor.
Oh, okay. Because that reminded me of Singapore, but maybe it's Hong Kong. I have to look it up. Interesting. But anyway, yeah. But the heroin busters went there as well. Yeah. But yeah, Macau and Hong Kong work very well. But I like the flavor of this film. It feels very different. So yeah. So let's say, do you have like any issues with Exiled?
Not really. I think, again, if you have a big issue, it's just like you probably struggled to connect to the characters or to just Johnny To's filmmaking. You do kind of got to get on the right wavelength for him, because he operates just on a different frequency than kind of other filmmakers. Because you could read the synopsis and think you've seen this film before, but really he tells it in such a unique way that it's how he tells it that sets it apart. So it's not really a negative so much as I can see why people would have a hard time with this film, but I think it's not really a problem with the film itself. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It makes sense. That's an interesting take, though, because I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this movie Exiled does a better job of getting you invested in the characters than Breaking News does. I mean, like every single character in Exiled, I'm so into. Like, they're so interesting and wonderfully written. And Breaking News has those characters too, but I feel like, because, like you said, it's more of a bigger ensemble, so you kind of like have to pick and choose who on whose side you're on, or which one is your favorite. Whereas in this one, it's such a family dynamic. The characters are so great in Exiled.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right about the writing being part of it. I think the other part is just, I think the acting power is just a little more stronger here. Instead of like Nick Chung playing the lead, he's like more of a side character, and you have Anthony Wong, who just holds the screen really well. You have Simon Yam in a bigger role. And then, I mean, like, all the supporting guys are pretty fantastic too. So yeah, I think it's probably mostly the writing, and maybe like a small amount just like having Anthony Wong on your side on this one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, I can see what you're saying. I mean, some people might find it difficult to connect to certain characters in either films, maybe. But I think that all depends on like what kind of movie you want to watch, or what kind of storytelling you're interested in. What kind of characters are you looking for? I mean, I think a part of that is on the viewer, I think.
I agree. And I think Johnny Toe films in particular are terrible if you're just like on your phone and watching too, because there's so many details that he's thought through well. And a lot of them are visual too. So it's like, if you're not looking at the screen, you're not going to get it. So I think they're ones that, like, once you can make that connection and really immerse yourself in the film, I think you're pretty much good on some of his films. I would say both of these films qualify in that sense.
Right. Well, to your point, if you Johnny Toe, if you ever want to make another movie, which I don't think will happen, but if you ever want to make a new movie, like a crime thriller action movie, make one about how people shouldn't play with their iPhones while they are in the cinema. I'm just saying. Oh my God.
Maybe he can like make a Sweat Lamb play a character playing with his iPhone in the cinema, and this bad stuff happens to him.
Yeah, maybe. It's like, oh my God. On a little bit of a sidetrack, the last time I was in theater, I was so annoyed, and not at the movie, because the movie was great, but not at the movie, but at the people who are in, like, people's attention spans are just not there anymore. They want to, like, when I was, I'm sure this is the same for you, but when I was growing up and went to the cinemas, everybody would shut up and just watch the movie. And now everybody just they're more interested in playing TikTok on their iPhone than watching an actual movie. It drives me mad. It really,
yeah.
Anyway.
No, I agree. You'll find no disagreement here.
Yeah. It's like, anyway, sorry. Whine, complain. We're done. That was my little rant there. I just had to say it. You brought it up, like, iPhone wise, so I just had to say that. But yeah, I mean, in terms of issues that I have with this film, I do have one.
Sure.
And it's a small one, but it's noticeable. Because you can get away with a lot of things when I'm watching a movie. Sometimes, though, there are things that are going a little bit too far. Like, I can take this whole gun shootout in the hospital with all of these drapes and curtains and stuff. That's great. The flying door, it's kind of ridiculous, but okay, I can accept that. It's fine. The shooting at a Red Bull can, though, like at an empty Red Bull can, and then knocking out like some kind of like guy from a car or whatever, or even like just playing football with an empty can of Red Bull. It's like, come on, like that's a little bit over the edge for my.
Well, I hope Red Bull gave them lots of money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
maybe that funded the film. I don't know.
Yeah, but that one is a little bit over the edge for me. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think he's constantly teetering at that edge. For me, at least, it's fine. I can forgive it. But yeah, some of them are pretty ridiculous. I mean, all those moments you outlined, it's like, it's getting right up to the line.
Yeah, it's just like when you see a guy like shooting at a can, and then while it's in the air, another guy shoots it and it just flies away and knocks a guy on its head. That's when I'm like, really, Johnny Toe, really? That's like, anyway, that's the only thing about this movie that I'm like, you didn't need that. You didn't need that. That's a little bit much. But it is what it is. It's in the film, so it's like, but that's like my only little gripe with it. It's like, sure, the Red Bull can is like, but like you said, maybe he had to put it in there because they sponsored him or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They're like the J&B of this film, Red Bull.
Oh yeah, J&B. There you go, J&B. Yeah, that's what it is. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. So before we go into ratings, I want to talk about one more thing with Exiled. Sure. And we talked about this before already, because you mentioned it, like, even though this movie ends terribly, it ends on a really downbeat, sort of depressing note, where basically everyone is gunned down and everybody is basically exterminating each other in like the Triad Hotel. I mean, it's like one big bloodbath. But you're leaving the film feeling, actually, it's you have a good feeling when you leave the film, because even though all of the main characters died, ultimately they ended up doing right by Jin and her kid. Is that they made up for the mistake of Woe, and they basically Jin is rich now, and she can probably give her kid whatever she wants to give him, and she can have this wonderful life. It's without Woe, but still, I mean, they did right by her by making her rich.
Yeah.
And that's I find that so, I don't want to say wholesome, but it's just, it leaves such a that's such a wonderful feeling to leave the movie off. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you told me just the synopsis and how it ends, you're like, okay, that's kind of a downbeat ending or whatever. But it's like, he's like the one director that can do it in like this way that feels like a happy ending somehow, where everyone dies, but it's like almost this like joyous thing. Like they are literally dying with smiles on their face. And there's like a moment where Anthony Wong puts the sunglasses on and just kind of smiles and dies. I mean, but it's like, that is, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how exactly he does it, but it's really so well made in that way that he is able to get those emotions across extremely clearly, in my opinion. So, and then the music plays. I think it's a wonderful last 2 minutes or so. And then you have the prostitute trying to drag out the rest of the gold bars too.
And the prostitute probably never has to work again, like a day in her life again. Screwing all of these guys, because she is rich as well. So there is that. But no, I find the ending of this film surprisingly uplifting.
Yeah,
and that's really hard to pull off, especially with such a bleak and downbeat ending. So kudos to Johnny To for that one.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's one more thing I wanted to mention there. Because I feel like it's important. So I think I'm pretty much done on Exiled. If you don't have any more, we can go and get into ratings again.
Let's do it.
All right. You want me to take this first, or do you want to go?
I can go. For me, this is 9 out of 10.
All right. I think we have a tie on this one. Yeah, Exiled, again, I watched it from Chameleon Films. There is a guy right there. Just such a badass look right there.
Yeah.
But no, Chameleon Films did a wonderful job with this. I watched it on this. I love this film so much. It's so great. It's because it's not just a great action thriller. It tells a really great story, even though it's kind of simplistic. I mean, all the things that we talked about are so great in it. And apart from that little thing that I talked about that irritates me a little bit, so I might want to blame the sponsors for that. Who knows?
Red Bull, get out.
Yeah, Red Bull, but who knows? But overall, I really love this film. So for me, also, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. It's this movie is fantastic. This movie is absolutely fantastic, and it's yeah. I was really surprised by this one. When I watched it the first time, I was very surprised. So yeah, 9 out of 10. It's a really great film. So all right, so those were the movies that we were going to talk about. As usual, I would like to ask you one more thing before I let you go, of course, if you'll permit me.
Absolutely.
All right, so I think it's pretty much clear that you and I are both fans of this genre and of the Asian crime action movies, I would say. But if you, but like we are, I don't mean this in a bad way, but we are older. So if you are a younger person, like the new young generation that is discovering movies, and we already talked about this a little bit because like getting attached to characters and all of that. Would you actually recommend Johnny Toe's movies to the new generation of people who are discovering films?
I think if they could get into it, they could definitely get into it. What would be the ideal entry point? I'm not sure. Maybe something like Drug War would be an easier ask than Exiled or The Mission.
Would it?
It's hard. It's very hard hitting. That's the only downside to that one.
Drug Wars is so bleak, though.
That's true as well. That'd be the downside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it probably wouldn't be my first recommendation, Johnny Toe. Maybe the stuff from like Woo or something is easier to digest. Maybe. I'm not sure. What would you answer to that?
I think it's difficult because it's like I said before with my whole iPhone little rant thing. I mean, it's so hard to get younger audiences invested in movies anymore. I think people are just like the new generation is just looking very differently at like movies nowadays, and I think that there are a lot of reasons for this. I think it's of course the massive overdose of just Marvel films, superhero films. That's
Sure.
all we see in all we see in cinema now. I think the TV format has played a huge part in this. And I mean, on the good side is that there are so many television shows right now that are absolutely masterful. So not to take away anything from that, but it's much easier to watch 40 minutes of TV on your couch in your home than to sit through a 2.5 hour movie in a cinema. And like I said, the third thing is that people's attention spans are just not there.
I know.
Funny thing, I a while back, and you have seen this, so I don't have to explain this to you. But a while back, someone at work asked me if I had any movies that he didn't see, and I was like, and he's really into westerns, so
Sure.
I was like, well, I have this one, which is Once Upon a Time in the West. You know that, so it's I have to, which I think we can both agree is pretty much a masterpiece.
Yeah, no disagreement here.
Yeah, exactly. And so I gave him that. It's like, watch this, and then like 2 days after or something, he took it back to me, and I said like, well, what did you think of the film? And then he told me that halfway he had to stop because he got bored.
Okay.
Because it's like, and look, it's a 3-hour movie. So, maybe there's something to be said there. But like, if you can't even if you can't even have the patience to watch a piece of art like the whole way through, then like, what is the point? What are we doing here? So I think there is a lot of like variables that come into play with younger audiences. It's just so difficult to get them invested in the art of movies anymore. Like, I mean, we are, of course, but I mean, it's so difficult, and especially when you have social media and people are playing TikTok and they play Fortnite and whatever. I don't keep up with all of that stuff, but
you kids,
knock
it off.
That's just because I heard people talk about it. No, but seriously, I'm not keeping up with all of that, and it's just really so. And getting people invested in movies is hard enough.
Yeah.
But getting people invested into foreign movies, because let's just call that these foreign movies, because let's just say non-American movies. Let's just say that if you like movies from France or Italy or whatever, or Asia, getting people invested in foreign movies. I mean, isn't that almost an impossible task at this point right now? How do you feel?
I think it depends on the person. Yeah. Sometimes if you watch, I feel like sometimes if you can like corner the person and watch the film with them, it almost forces like that full immersion where they're forced to pay attention. But yeah, no, it's not easy. I mean, I rarely have time to, like, with a small child in the house, I rarely have time to watch a film with like a buddy or something like that. So I do miss those times. But yeah, I mean, and like we're talking about Exiled and Johnny Toe. I mean, these are films about like gangsters killing people with like amazing set pieces and stuff like that. It's not exactly like it's Tarkovsky or something like that, or 2001.
Right.
So, like, in my opinion, they're not that hard to watch. I mean, we talked about Enzo Castellari, who is like pooping out one great set piece after another. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a great answer to a solution.
No, and it's well, I mean, and I talked about this with Stephen from TV Nash actually when we did the Indiana Jones trilogy.
Sure.
I mean, he has I forgot what it was, like his sister-in-law has a kid or whatever, and she was watching The Wizard of Oz when she was 5, and she loved it. So parents who have kids, and I mean that as a compliment. I mean, you have the opportunity to teach your child the beauty of art, and really instill these movies with her when you get the chance, when she's finally the age that she can understand and watch these movies. But the kids, the people that are now, like, let's just say, like 16 to 28 or whatever,
Sure.
It's just really hard to get them invested into movies anymore. And it's and I don't, you know what, I would say this, I would probably, getting them invested into like just American films, that will probably work. But foreign films, I don't know, because the thing is, the whole film market has changed as well. Like when I was growing up and I went to the theater, like when you had like the top like 20 movies or whatever, like 3 of them would be French, and 4 of them would be Asian. And so I already had the opportunity to watch all of this stuff. And nowadays, when you have like nothing but superhero movies in theater, it's not a very diverse movie catalog. So
yeah, unfortunately, I do need to run in a couple of minutes, but
okay.
yeah, it's yeah, it is. It has become extremely top heavy. Just the whole industry in general. It's kind of like we make these huge, big budget films and the mid-sized stuff, which is frankly a lot of foreign films, just because they don't have that Hollywood heft. That stuff kind of gets edged out, and it's a shame. I mean, like, not only does it edge out the foreign films, but it edges out kind of like those mid-market American films as well, which, I mean, I've never been like the biggest blockbuster person in general, whether it's Marvel or something else. So I like a lot of those ones where it's like, yeah, let's give this guy kind of a mid-budget and see what he can do with it. So I think in many ways it is, there are definitely some losers there.
Right. So yeah, I don't no definite answer there. But anyway, since you have to run in a bit, I think it's time we wrap this up. First of all, James, I would like to thank you for once again doing this with me. This was great. Once again, it had been a while, but we managed to get it done, and I'm sure we'll do something in the future as well. But for now, thank you for being here. This was wonderful. This was great. For the people who are watching or listening, look up his channel, Poliziotteschi and Gialli Reviews. You're doing some great stuff. So look him up and subscribe, leave a like, and all of that stuff. So, and once again, thank you for being here. So it's time to close this off. Thank you all for listening, for watching, and all of that. We'll be back with more videos as soon as possible, of course. Stay safe and healthy as always. Have a good weekend. Have a good next week. And I will see and talk to you guys very, very soon. And James will be in touch as well. So
sounds
anyway.
good. All right. It was a fun time.
All right. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you. Talk to you. All right.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. See ya. Bye.